So a lot of people called it. A lot of people seen this coming. The big revelation in Erased episode 10 on who is the killer. Now, to be honest with you, there's a couple things you can say about it, because I know there's mixed opinions going on right now regarding this revelation. A lot of people were like, well, it was so obvious, it was too obvious, and the reveal, they're not that happy on who's the actual killer. For me, like, I mean, I was suspecting some other people because, again, we never seen in the past timeline the actual killer, so I was thinking maybe it could have been one of the kids. But then when you actually gather all the information and think about it, yeah, it had to be an adult, because he was going from town to town and killing people even back then, and a little kid ain't gonna really be able to manage all that and pass the blame and shit like that. So some of the problems with it, I mean, even during this episode, you gotta think for a second, okay, the killer has been painted to be this mastermind, this genius of basically throwing the blame on other people, everything he's done up until now. I mean, even framing Satoru for killing his own mother. But in this particular episode, it kind of felt as though it was throwing a lot of those really crucial elements out the window, because, okay, this kid that was very close to this teacher all of a sudden is about to go missing and be killed, and then the teacher's fleeing. Wouldn't that automatically put all the blame on him and all the suspicion on him? So even if he left, he's kind of going to be like the #1 prime suspect. And up until this point, the killer never really has had that MO. He's had the MO of being a genius, of being this mastermind and shit like that. So that was kind of some of the elements that I felt as though like this episode kind of messed with, where it was like, yo, if he's going to kill Satoru right here, he would have done it like the killer up until now that we've known would have done it a lot more in secrecy and things of that nature. And then another thing about the episode was Satoru, the entire time when he was staring at the bathroom to wait for that chick to come out, or even go inside and get the chick, he was right there. He would have known if she came out of the bathroom and went around and went out the back door, but he believed the teacher that she had left. Like, how would that even be possible, plausible for that to have happened when Satoru was standing right there in front of the bathroom the entire time? There was no opportunity for her to leave the bathroom and then leave out the back door. So that was another thing that kind of had me like, what's going on? I mean, to be honest with you, the way the killer came out, and it just seems that he's like batshit nuts, like just some predator and shit like that. I guess I was fine with that, because it's kind of like, you know, not everybody has this genius reason or whatever. Like, he's just a fucking psychotic motherfucker. Like, fair enough, you know, some people are just like that, especially somebody that's gonna be kidnapping kids and killing them and killing people in general. They're, you know, a lot of times they're just fucking crazy, and that's what it seems to be with the killer. And I guess everyone's main problem with it is that every point was at the teacher. There was really nobody else that had the perfect MO of like, okay, you have the opportunity to be around all these kids, you have these different opportunities, but the teacher, I mean, there was that Yuki guy, but from the get-go, Satoru has always said, no, I believe he's innocent, I believe he's innocent. And I guess one of the things where, for me, it's a very cheap reason, but ultimately why I'm not upset about it, or, you know, the big reveal or whatever. If anything, I was kind of like, oh shit, you know, we're getting it this early. I thought this was going to be like end of episode 11, episode 12 type of deal. I was just thinking to myself, it was so obvious of him being the killer that it threw me off. So when it finally was him, I was just kind of like, well, damn, I really didn't expect it to be him because it was so obvious. So that's kind of what my mindset was. Again, it's not that it was a masterful thing, because to be honest with you, when it was revealed, it could have been done a lot more of a drummed up way, a lot more impactful, but it was still nonetheless something very dark, I guess. And I think I appreciated more of the dark aspects of what happened at the end of episode 10 with it, but there were some problems with it, and that's where I kind of stand with it. It's like, I'm not over the moon for it, but I'm not pissed off at it as well. I thought it was pretty damn good of an ending for the most part of the episode. I mean, honestly, let's be real here, this is only episode 10, there's still 2 more episodes. More than likely, 2 things are going to happen. Satoru's either going to be rescued by somebody, or we're going to have a revival and he's going to rewind time. I think if it's a revival, it'll make a little bit better sense, because if somebody just comes and rescues him and shit like that, it's just going to kind of feel like, oh, at the nick of time type of deal. So even though revival kind of feels a little bit cheap at this particular point as well, I think the revival will suit it more, and then he can go back. And I think one of Satoru's biggest mistakes, honestly, was that he wasn't being a detective when it came to finding out who was the killer. Aside from the box when he went inside the school bus and shit like that, he didn't really get any clues or big leads as to who the killer was, and he was more so just interested in protecting the kids, but not finding out who's doing it. Because if you find out the source of like, this person is the killer, then bam, like, if anything, in one of the revivals, he should have went to the time where she was thrown in the shed, waited around to see who came out, and then get the motherfucking nab him and shit like that. So I guess that's another one of the flaws regarding Satoru. Like, he should have been more so looking at who the killer is, trying to find the killer, instead of just only worrying about rescuing the kids. But then again, you got to think, this is a 30-year-old guy in a, 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid's body, so there's only so much he could do at the same time. And with all that being said, again, I just felt like the ending, it was satisfying, but it could have been done a lot better. And especially the person being the killer, like, they could have thrown, I guess, more red herrings. I don't know, like, for me, even though it looked like the teacher was it, and I think I even called it back in like episode 1 or 2, like, yeah, it could very very well be the teacher. There was still like a couple of different pieces that I was like, okay, it could be that one little kid, KO or whatever, because he was just really intelligent for his fucking age. And I was like, maybe he has revival too. And if there's another character that has revival besides Satoru, there could be some type of throwing off there as well. So there's a couple other interesting things that they could do. Overall, again, satisfaction for what I felt with the reveal of who's the killer. I mean, it could have been better, but it is what it is, and I, for the most part, enjoyed it. Like, when I was watching the episode, to be honest with you, I was just kind of with my brain turned off and just kind of enjoying it for what it is. But let me know what you guys' take is on this. How do you feel about the revelation of the killer in episode 10 of Erased? Were you disappointed? Were you satisfied? Did you not see it coming at all? Again, I think a lot of people, for the most part, were pinning the teacher from like episode 1 or 2 because he was one of the main key players and who could have done it. And your overall thoughts of the episode. How you think Satoru is going to get out of this jam of basically being thrown into a fucking river tied down to the car? I mean, to be honest with you, one thing as well, and I've seen this kind of floating around, people saying is like, he could just, if he's strapped to the seatbelt, just put the seat in like a recliner position and slip out of the seatbelt. Like, there was, you know, there's a couple things he could do as well. Who knows? Maybe he'll do it while he's in the car, you know, and before he drowns or some shit like that. We just gotta wait and see. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed anything about this video, make sure to drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, stalk me on Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.